Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the 8th round of the Multi-Class Endurance Championship Season 4 held on Ron Raceway. As we see the start for each race, you can see that we're in the Muscle Racecars class for this round, with GT1 drivers in the Pisswasser Dominator, GT2 drivers in the Redwood Gauntlet, and GT3 drivers in the Burgershot Stallion. For all the information you need about this championship, check the link in the first line of the description. So this race was, for me, coming off the back of a series of disappointments. Apart from round 5, which is, I wasn't really driving very well anyway, so I wasn't expecting much from that. I'd had 3 races in rounds 4, round 6 and round 7 where I felt like I dropped points. Instead of actually gaining points from the positions that I finished, I felt like I'd actually lost points for not getting out of the races what I should have done. For example, in round 4, I came in 3rd place where I felt I should have won. That lost me 5 points. In round 6 was the same story. That's another 5 points gone, or at least 3 from potentially, or 2 from potentially finishing 2nd. And obviously, the previous round in round 7, I was on for a 2nd place finish, and I ended up disconnecting and finishing in 5th place for that. So, in total, coming into this round, I had felt like I'd lost 16 points. So I was on a really bad run, in my mind, in terms of I was just so far behind where I felt like I should have been or could have been. So as we see the start for the GT1 race here, we'll have the start for the GT2 race as well, but we don't have any GT3 footage for this race, so I'll quickly explain what happened in the GT3 race. Drumballs came back from his absence for the last 2 rounds and got another commanding win. He was far and away the quickest for this round, so very, very good win for him. Obviously, he's part of the Ron Racing team, which is my team and the same team as Merfos as well. So to get a win for the Ron team on Ron Raceway, that was, kind of perfect. So well done to him in GT3. He was he got a good win for the Ron team on Ron Raceway there. In the GT1 battle, we can see that it's kind of, it's very, very close on the first lap, as you would expect. Merfos gets up into 3rd place as the driver in front of him hits the barrier there, and then we get into a fight essentially over 1st place between the 2 usual suspects for this championship, Merfos and Oracle. Oracle had a great start from the lead, and now they're battling. Merfos managed to catch up. He's obviously for the Ron team as well, so if he could get a win for the Ron team on Ron Raceway, that would be, fantastic as well, just like Drumballs. And ultimately that is what he manages to do, gets the position from Oracle eventually and drives away at the front of the pack. Now for GT2, you saw that it was kind of a little bit crazy at the start, and this is the start of the race from Imarogko's perspective. You see that Mike just hits the back of a car there, and that causes a sort of 3 cars essentially to be hit in a concertina effect that puts them all wide, and Mike is able to gain from that and get into 2nd place. And then later on in the race, Imarogko and Mike are having a good battle over 2nd place in the race, and Mike essentially goes into the back of Imarogko, as we'll see. So Mike gets 2 penalties for this race because he didn't wait for either of those incidents. He ends up getting 2 penalties afterwards, which, considering he finishes 2nd place on the road, that puts him actually quite far down the order, and I think he ends up finishing in 6th place because they were having sort of a 4-way battle between Mike, Imarogko, Brady and JB Carfreak. They were having a great 4-way battle over 2nd place throughout the course of this race, and that really hurt Mike in terms of points. So it makes the championship very, very interesting going into the final 2 rounds. But ultimately, yeah, it's just one of those things where, if he'd just waited, maybe it would have been okay for him. But he did do a good race, same as Imarogko and everyone else battling over 2nd place. But the penalties that he got from those 2 incidents that we've seen, and obviously you can go back and have a look at them if you missed them, and obviously we saw Mike's perspective from the very start of the race as well. Those penalties really cost him in terms of points. But the reason it was a battle over 2nd place and not over the lead for GT2 is because I had basically probably the best performance I've ever had in any single multi-class endurance championship race ever, and possibly any race on GTA ever, and maybe any race at all in the whole of life. Obviously, as you saw, I got a great start there, got up the inside of everybody, then The crash happened behind, but I was already on the inside and up front. And that was it. That was the last I saw of anybody in this race. I just drove away. I had the best lap by 0.7 of a second, which is huge considering, from the best lap perspective, 0.7 of a second separated pretty much the rest of the field in what is a tightly packed GT2 class. I had the best lap coming into this race as well. I'd done a lot of practice, and I just drove away from everybody. Every single lap, the gap was just extending and extending and extending. And by the end of the race, I finished 50 seconds ahead of second place, which was just ridiculous. And that is not something that I've ever experienced in my life, to be so dominant in a race and to come off the back of those such disappointments in rounds 4, 6 and 7. I felt like I had something to prove. I hadn't got a win since round 1. That was so long ago as well. And I felt like I had something to prove, because I felt like I should have had so many more points and much better performances than what I had been doing. Of course, the previous round was no fault of my own, which was such a disappointment in itself. But then rounds 4 and round 6, it was tiny mistakes that I'd made that made me feel like I'd lost points in that round compared to what I should have had. And like I said, I felt like I was 16 points behind where I should have been. By the end of this race, I'm on 84 points, and I could have been on, if I'd actually had the results that I feel like I should have done, I could have been on 100 points and had the championship wrapped up at this point. But that's not how it went. So coming into this race, I knew that it was a track that suited me. I knew it was a car that suited me. I knew that if I put my mind to it, I could have a very good race here. And that is exactly what happened. I just drove away from everybody. My strongest performance probably ever, and to finish half a lap ahead of everybody else in what has, throughout the course of the season, been such a tightly packed GT2 field was just ridiculous. And yeah, easily my best performance in an MCEC race. I'm 100% sure about that. My pit stops obviously were pretty much the only highlights in this race, so they all went perfectly well as well. I just left them until everybody else had kind of made their stops, and I never, at any point, even when I made my stops, I wasn't overtaken for the lead even temporarily. It was just kind of a boring race that I was very happy to have, essentially. And obviously with Murphos winning for my team, the Ron Racing team in the GT1 class, and Dron Balls winning for Ron in GT3, my win means it's the first time ever and the only time that an MCEC team has won every single class in any single race. Obviously, on the fact that it was on Ron Raceway as well makes it even sweeter. But to get a full 45 points for 3 class wins is the only time that's ever happened, and the Ron team is the only team to have ever done that, and that was just wonderful. When I started this whole championship, my main goal was to get the Ron team, which is a team I'd represented in all 4 of the seasons of the Multiclass Endurance Championship. I wanted the Ron team to win a team's championship, and really this result, after only getting basically 7 points in round 7, to come back like this, win all 3 GTs, get 45 points, and that pretty much meant that we were going to win the team's championship as well at that point. It was just the best feeling, and it was the objective that I set out to be able to win the team's championship, and to be able to get a full haul of points and a class win for the team in a single race is just remarkable. So great job to Murphos and Drum Balls as well in GT1 and GT3 respectively. We had a very, very good race this race. But yeah, I was really, really happy with my performance to finish so far ahead of everybody else. With Mike's penalties, that opened up the championship with there only being basically 3 points between us. But the way that the championship works is that you drop your worst 2 results, and Mike and Imarogko basically at this point have worse results to be able to drop, especially Mike, who only got 2 points from round 2, so he has more to gain at this point. So even though it looks like I'm in the lead of the championship, I'm actually on the back foot because I already have a decent amount of points and I have less to lose essentially. So yeah, those dropped points that I had in the previous rounds really hurt me, but when I was doing this race and at the end of this race, I didn't care. I was just so happy to have sort of put in this performance and proved to myself that yes, I still can race well. So let's move on to the Xbox race. In GT1, King Blaze got another victory here to really stamp his ground on the GT1 championship that he pretty much already had, and this actually was the round where it was confirmed that he would be GT1 champion mathematically. In second place we had Blue Eyed Malice, who put in a really good performance to follow up on his second place from the previous round as well. And then in third place we had Danielson, who got his first podium of the season. When it comes to the GT2 battle, we're actually seeing the start of it here. Obviously, unfortunately, we don't have any GT1 footage, but we're seeing footage from GT2 and GT3. For GT2, Trumpet Master got another victory. That's his fifth of the season. He's completely dominating the GT2 class on Xbox in the rounds that he's actually participated in. In second place was Edible Hornet, with RJ Slow in third place, so sort of the top three in the championship ending up in the top three positions, and we'll see how Trumpet Master gets ahead of Equation here and takes the lead and then doesn't look back from that point on. In GT3 we had an interesting battle because we had Faruja, who was new to the championship in the previous round, and the Specky Legend, who is kind of in that championship fight. So obviously Faruja is not in the championship fight, but he's putting in some good performances. He was finished up in second place in this one to the Specky Legend, who manages to overtake him, as we'll see from the footage in a short while. They both sort of manage a bit of a crash that happens, as we'll see in the bottom two shots later on in the lap. And the Specky Legend is able to then catch up to Faruja and pass him, and they finish in first and second. Unfortunately, a pretty off-colour round for Matty H, who finished in third place. Still some good points for his championship hunt, but not quite as good as he would have hoped for the GT3 battle. And in this round we had quite a few people sort of crossing platforms. So in the GT1 battle, for example, on PS4, we had Xbox Pro, who used to race on the GT1 side for Xbox. He actually participated in the GT1 race on PS4, didn't manage to get a podium, but we also had Zenvo from the PC side in GT1 racing the PS4 race, and a few of the Xbox guys also moved over to the PC race and started racing in there. Not always, and then they weren't exactly in the championship battles or anything, but just as a novelty sort of thing, if they got GTA on PC, then they tried to do both of them, and Trumpet Master was one of those. So as we're looking at the way that the GT3 battle was sorted, with the Specky Legend putting a nice pass on Faruja and then being able to drive away to get another win, his second win of the season. The Trumpet Master was obviously had been doing very well in GT2 on Xbox, and he decided to take up a reserve slot on the GT3 side on PC. Obviously we have driver changes all the way through the season if people drop out and things like that, and people not needing a reserve for a specific round, so that's something that can happen. By the way, Blaze was definitely winning won the GT1 championship for Xbox One from this round onwards, so congratulations to him. And it's still an interesting fight in the GT2 side, but Trumpet Master does have two non-point scoring rounds to drop there, so he's in a very strong position. Same with Matty H, really in a very strong position for GT3, but not all over yet. And as you can see for the teams championship, very, very close at the top. There's only 10 points, with Globo losing one of their GT1 drivers of Xbox Pro. Beta Pharmaceuticals were catching up. So yeah, as we move on to the PC side, there was quite a few people, like I said, in the GT1 side. Obviously Zenvo, who'd been a race winner for PC on GT1. Also Xbox Pro, who'd been a race winner for Xbox One in GT1. Both of those raced in GT1 on PS4. Neither managed to get a podium, but it was interesting to sort of have this cross platforms racing. And Trumpet Master was one of those who raced in GT3 on PC. He ended up managing to get the win in GT3. just worked his way through the pack and was able to get the win. So a double win for him, both first in GT2 on Xbox and then GT3 on PC. He wouldn't be quite as lucky in the later rounds, whilst he managed to get a win in GT3 on PC, for this round he wasn't able to repeat that for the next 2 rounds that he also participated in. So it does show the sort of the relative difference in performance between the classes maybe as well, and just that there's great drivers in all classes across the board. But in addition to that, we also had Racecars and Benimi from the PC side change the class that they were racing in. So you might remember that Racecars and Benimi were basically fighting for the top 2 spots in the last 3 rounds in the GT3 class on PC. But as we're seeing on the screen here, Benimi is racing in the GT2 class. He puts in a very good performance and is able to finish in 2nd place to Cloud McShort, who, we saw them battling at the very start there, but Cloud McShort managed to hold that position that he had, the pole position, and take the win from there. So a good performance for him, which really helped him, to solidify his lead in the championship for GT2. But Benimi was racing in GT2 and had a very good performance, kind of underlying that he probably was a little bit too dominant for the GT3 class, at least, if he can also perform well in GT2. And then we had Racecars from the GT3 class, who was also very, very strong, was racing for GT1 this round and racing in the GT1 class, and he put in a good performance as well to finish in 2nd place. But the win for PC GT1 would go to Zemvor, getting his 2nd win in as many rounds that he's actually participated in, because he missed round 7 and he won in round 6. But him and Avivo have a sort of a great battle early on in the race, and then Zemvor makes a pit stop, and by the time Avivo makes his pit stop, Zemvor has passed him. So Zemvor was the quickest in this race. He had a very, very quick, best lap. He was on form and was able to take another win to at least keep some championship hopes alive, although Avivo managing to finish in 3rd place, and he had a very interesting battle with Super Stepper and Racecars and Friendly Baron all over sort of that 2nd place and the final podium positions, and Avivo managed to keep hold of that. It was quite interesting because I seem to remember from what I can remember, at the very, very end of the race, we had Super Stepper was in 2nd place, I think Doom Penguin was in 3rd, and then it all changed on the last few laps, and Racecars ends up taking 2nd place, Avivo gets 3rd. It was a very, very interesting finale to the race, but yeah, with Avivo still, getting some decent points with that 3rd place, he's got a good hold on the championship at this point, although Zemvor is coming up strong. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Round 8 was quite an interesting one, and there's only 2 more rounds to go. The championships will start to be decided at this point from round 9 and round 10 onwards, and with dropped scores coming into it, these scores might not necessarily go a full 15 points ahead. If somebody, for example, wins a race and gets 15 points from it, but they drop one of their previous scores, which was say 6 points, they'll only get a bonus, a benefit of 9 points in total, because it's only the best 8 rounds that count. But we'll see how it all turns out in the next 2 videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.